Welcome to this new podcast and thank you for listening. Do you remember the last time I spoke to you mainly about fruits and their impact on health, how to choose and consume them? And today it's the turn of vegetables. Vegetables have a peculiarity compared to fruits, and they are, of course, very rich in nutrients, but the micronutrients are trapped in their insoluble fibers called celluloses, which cannot be digested. They give vegetables their characteristic stiffness. These celluloses are interesting because they will play the role of intestinal broom. But too much insoluble fiber can quickly become troublesome. It will therefore be necessary to think about how to consume them, especially for people with irritated intestines. We are not herbivores. We are talking about cellulose and cellulase. To digest cellulose, we need an enzyme called cellulase, but humans lack it, unlike herbivores. It takes a lot of work for our digestive system to extract micronutrients from celluloses. Chewing is essential because it will split the fibers into very small pieces. One can also use a juice extractor, which will do this job of separating the fibers from the nutrients of the vegetables. Cooking is also a solution because it tenderizes the fibers. But note that vegetables are very rich in micronutrients. They also have the advantage over fruits of being much less loaded with sugars and micronutrients in general. What to say about fruiting vegetables? Fruiting vegetables include cucumbers, zucchini, peppers, and tomatoes. In reality, they are fruits, but they share with vegetables the particularity of containing a lot of micronutrients and few macronutrients. They also have the advantage over other vegetables of containing very little insoluble fibers. They therefore have the digestibility of fruits and micronutritional richness without having too many macronutrients from vegetables. In a way, it's kind of the best of both worlds. All the precautions for use that I will describe below for consuming vegetables, especially in the case of irritated intestines, do not apply to fruit vegetables. And is fiber that good? As explained previously, there are two categories of fiber. Soluble fibers, which on contact with water form a gel which nourishes our intestinal microbiota, and insoluble fiber, which cannot be digested and which constitute an intestinal broom. And what about the quantity? Too much insoluble fiber and therefore too much sweeping can create irritation in the intestines. The agro-food industry sold us the idea that we needed a lot of fiber in order to add to their products as good part of fibers which could not have been valued otherwise. I really want to warn you against abuse of insoluble fiber. When you reform your diet and add a lot of raw vegetables, there is a risk of the appearance of digestive pains, gas, and flatulence. It is a signal from the body that there is too much fiber. We are not herbivores, and we will have to develop strategies to be able to get the most out of vegetables. The benefits of vegetables on promoting proximity and quality. Modern food supplies us with an abundance of macronutrients, often too much, but very few micronutrients. The first advantage of vegetable is that they are a specific source of micronutrients without containing a lot of macronutrients. The second advantage is the ease of access to quality vegetables, unlike fruit. Today, it is very easy to find organic vegetable producers, market, AMAP producers, store, etc. Vegetables are therefore one of the mainstay of the diet, provided you know the tips for preparing them. So do you wonder how to consume them? Better raw, juice, or cooked? For what difference? As much as the fruit are to be consumed preferably raw and unprocessed because they are perfectly digestible as they are as much with the vegetables. It will be necessary to prepare them to bypass this cellulose problem which may hinder the absorption of nutrients and complicate the digestive work. I am going to offer you various non-exhaustive strategies, but representative of what you will be able to put in place to take advantage of this nutritional richness without having the drawbacks. Grating or slicing the vegetables partially splits the cellulose and therefore make them a little more digestible compared to the fact of chewing them directly. Passing the vegetable through a juicer will help separate the water and nutrients from the insoluble fibers. This technique makes it possible to almost completely remove celluloses. It is therefore quite suitable for very irritated intestines by relieving the digestive system. Mixing the vegetables in a blender will split the celluloses into very small pieces. However, from experience, these small pieces will be more difficult to digest than large cellulose chains. So, moderate the amount of mixed vegetable you are going to consume. It is not because the fibers are mixed that they will be better digested. Cooking vegetable at low temperature optimizes their taste and texture and preserves a good part of their micronutritional content. As it cooks, the celluloses soften and turn into much simpler sugar. Cooked vegetables often taste sweeter than raw vegetables. Of course, there will be a loss of some of the micronutrients, but you will assimilate a lot more than in a crunched raw vegetable, where a large part of the micronutrients will remain trapped in the fibers. To cook vegetables, you can use cooker vapor or even better casseroles, thick bottom with a lid provided with a temperature indicator. Just put the vegetables with a little background of water to cover and eat until the needle reaches the green area. Turn off the heat source and cook for 20 to 30 minutes. The temperature remains around 75 degrees Celsius, thus preserving a maximum of micronutrients. Working raw vegetables, lacto fermentation, and vegetable massage. We have just seen that it was very interesting to transform vegetables mechanically or thermally to make nutrients more accessible to the body. There is an even more interesting method than simply grating or slicing vegetable. It is vegetable massage, a method particularly suitable for leafy vegetables. It is in fact to chop the vegetables as finely as possible, put them in a salad bowl, add a little cider vinegar, olive oil, and work with the mixture by hand before letting it rest for a few moments. This massage, helped by the vinegar, will tenderize the vegetable, which will be easier to chew and assimilate. There is another way to transform vegetable also that does not alter the micronutritional content, the lacto fermentation. The principle is simple. Just grate or mince a vegetable, put it in a jar and cover it with lightly salted water and close the jar. There will be a fermentation away from here, lactic fermentation, allowing the celluloses to be broken down. The good bacteria that develop in this way have a good chance of being destroyed by stomach acids, so the primary goal of lactofermentation is not to repopulate the intestinal microbiota, but rather to break down the insoluble fibers in vegetables to make them more digestible and allow better assimilation of micronutrients. Now I'm talking about juices, simple juices, enriched juices, densified juices. Vegetable juices represent for me a very good tool by allowing vegetables to become as digestible as fruits. Choosing the right vegetable is very important, and to make your juice follow the 2/3 vegetables and 1/3 fruit rule. Don't just make simple vegetable juices, enrich them with avocado, sunflower, seeds, coconut to make a dish as such. Preparing vegetable juices make up for the lack of fruit. Both fruit and juices are made up of micronutrients and very little insoluble fiber. Juices are essential because they provide an abundance of micronutrients, an amount difficult to achieve by simply eating whole fruits and vegetables. There are different models of extractor. Choose a good quality one. The price may seem high but so beneficial for your health. If there are two items to have as food, it is a juice extractor and a low temperature cooking system. Before any food reform, if you already had 2 glasses of vegetable juice per day, you will see a real difference in your state of health. Extracting the juice from vegetable is not something natural, so you will have to use vegetable juices wisely. If you make yourself 1 liter of juice, that corresponds to a huge amount of vegetables. Of course, potentially irritating cellulosis will be absent, but this is a very large amount of micronutrients, too big for the body if you drink your juice all at once. It is therefore better to consume them slowly by splitting in 2 or 3 doses during the day to optimize the assimilation of micronutrients. But remember that it can be very interesting to enrich and densify vegetable juices, especially for tired people who have trouble consuming too much liquids. The fact of thickening the juices with seeds of all kinds, avocado, coconut, will enrich it in micronutrients and facilitate absorption by the body. So, what are the benefits of raw vegetable and the limits? Most vegetable can be eaten raw, even potatoes. Besides, potato juice was widely used during World War I to heal stomach ulcers. However, not all of them are easy to eat raw. I will therefore distinguish between different classes of vegetable. Leafy vegetables like salad, endives, spinach, chard, celery, etc. have cellulosis that are not too rigid. They are also very easy to consume raw, except for people with very irritated intestines, who will have every interest at first to juice them or to use the technique of massaging vegetables or lacto fermentation to get around this difficulty. But generally, leafy vegetables go very well. Root vegetables like carrot, beets, turnips, etc. are richer in macronutrients than leafy vegetables because these plants store their reserves in the form of sugars at their roots. But they contain a lot of cellulose and are therefore potentially difficult to digest. You can juice them without problem or lactoferment them, eat them grated without overdoing them, or cook them. Cabbages, leafy cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, kohlrabi, radish, etc. contain sulfur, which is particularly favorable for detoxification and stimulation of the digestive system. Leafy cabbage, cabbage pak choi, collard greens, kale, etc. have the same use and the same digestibility as leafy vegetables. You can prepare the cauliflower by slicing and thus obtain a sort of tabbouleh which will be marinated to optimize its digestibility. Kohlrabi will be prepared like root vegetables. Radishes are also loaded with sulfur and very active on the digestive sphere. The body uses sulfur to form antioxidants, which will limit cellular aging. Flowers and shoots like artichokes, asparagus, etc. So artichokes can be eaten raw, except the leaves which are too cellulosic. The artichoke heart is very tender and easily digestible. Asparagus, especially if they are green, are very remineralizing. They are also quite digestible. Aliaceae, onions, garlic, leeks, shallots, etc. are very loaded with active ingredients at the limit of medicinal plants. They can be eaten raw, but be careful with very woody leeks, well sliced, and preferable marinated. As they are rich in detoxifying principle, they should be used with measure. It is up to everyone to see in what quantity They are best tolerated. They can also be eaten cooked. Other vegetables, potato, sweet potato, the potato can be eaten raw in small quantities, but we will eat it mostly cooked. The sweet potato, as evidenced by its color, is very rich in micronutrients. It contains less starches than potatoes, therefore more digestible, and it can be eaten raw, grated to be considered as a root vegetable. And you can also cook it. So these are the main category of vegetable, distinguished between leafy vegetable and root vegetables, which are more difficult to digest. But are vegetables an essential food base? If we lived in the tropics with an abundance of fruit available year-round, we could eventually go without vegetables. But in our country, in our latitudes, vegetables are an essential food base. They are also much cheaper than fruit. You can enjoy a lot of different kind of vegetable, varying as much as possible. To do this, go to the market and you will discover many varieties that you are not necessarily used to eating. Artichoke, purslane, cronis, watercress, etc. Do you know everything on the subject? And now you know more about vegetable, more about fruit, everything you need to modify your intake and next time. I invite you to take stock of nuts and oil seeds, which are nutritional bombs. So we will gonna see that next time about nuts and seeds, how you can use them. And little by little, you will be able to build an adapted, healthy, and nutritious diet that completely meets your nutritional needs. Take note and become more and more independent for your physical and mental health. So now see you soon for an next video or next podcast. And as usual, please take care of yourself. This is the first priority. Namaste.